Just as we saw with the Japan deal, when it was hyped up, being hyped up as, oh my god, this deal is going to be amazing, it's going to be so good for us, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, just wait and see, it's going to be absolutely wonderful, it's going to be brilliant, trust us. And then it turns out it only favours us by about 17%, while massively, massively favouring Japanese exporters. And like I say, it barely added anything to our economy. Like I say, it added something, again, like 0.01% to our GDP. Just as the Australian deal is also going to add a very similar amount to our GDP. And more worryingly, with the Australian trade deal, it has been rushed through, just as the Japan deal was. And there are, again, several worrying things probably to worry about that deal. The two big ones, obviously, are first of all the farming tariffs. We are going to become a massive export market for Australia because they industrialise their farming. They can flood the UK with cheap beef, lamb, whatever, well, not whatever type of meat, you name it, they can bring it here. And if people want to say, oh, it's all right, regulations will protect us, not really, because again, in that trade deal, then the Australians could have said that maybe we have to waive those regulations. Again, so much for the sovereignty. And then, of course, there are the secret courts, which are, again, also meant to be in that trade deal as well. So bye-bye to those regulations. And so, again, so much for sovereignty. But, of course, just recently it was announced this weekend that we have done a deal with Norway, Liechtenstein and Iceland. And once again, pretty much cheered to the rafters as being a fantastic trade deal. But from Norway itself, Norway even said, yeah, the deal that you've got isn't as good as actually being in the European Economic Area. And that's obviously being members of the Single Market and Customs Union. So as we always said, when you look at these deals, they're hyped up and fanfared, but as always, the devil is indeed in the detail in these deals. So before we take a look at the response to this new deal, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And also down below there is a link to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. Or now you can join the Pony Club, the new YouTube subscription model, where you get special emotes to use on live streams and in the chat down below. So thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So on with the new, on with today's article. So this comes to us courtesy of Zello Street. And the title is, The Wonderful UK-Norway Trade Deal Isn't. Reminding us yesterday that something which looks too good to be true usually is too good to be true, the Brexit boosting part of our free trade and fearless press brought the news of the new free trade deal between the UK and Norway, and most likely taking their cue from the perpetually thirsty Paul Staines and his rabble at the Guido Fawkes blog, who had earlier told readers that Global Britain's was Truss's latest trade triumph. And, however, there was more. They continued to say, Liz Truss has scored yet another major victory today. Seizing a post-Brexit trade deal with Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein, she promises the deal will be a, quote, major boost to the existing 21.6 billion of trade done with the three countries. Doesn't look like Liz will stop being the Tory grassroots sweetheart anytime soon. Hurrah for Brexit. This supremely delusional tone was echoed by the Daily Brexit, still called The Express, as it announced Britain and Norway have announced a bumper Brexit agreement after months of crunch negotiations, it has been reported. The Daily Mail concluded, crackers, Norway trade deal slices chunk off cheddar tariffs. Hurrah again. Murdoch's The Sun, as one might expect from the paper where many of the hacks only talk about ordinary working Brits, rather than having to actually encounter them in real life, decided it was all about fish and chips, that British could enjoy cheaper fish and chips with 22 billion Brexit trade deal with Iceland, Norway and Liechtenstein. Fish suppers and prawn sandwiches would become cheaper. Who talks about fish, though, nowadays? Like I say, there was seriously abandoned it. But no matter, Trade Secretary Liz Truss today chalked up the deal was a big win for global Britain and planned to celebrate with haddock and chips for dinner. But into each garden of a little rain must fall. And check Truss, it soon came pouring down. Investigative journalist John Danzig put it directly. The deal is not actually as good as the trade deal we had with the three countries when we were an EU member. The former UK government trade advisor, Den Hallig, had also said that had some detail to add to that, saying, this UK-EU free trade agreement provides only better trading conditions than the World Trade Organization terms, though with considerably more trade barriers when compared with the previous single market relationship. Overall, this is quite a standard free trade agreement with very limited economic value. And it got worse. Lewis Goodall, the BBC Newsnight, quoted Norwegian PM Errol Solberg saying that the free trade agreement is not as good as the EEA agreement, and an FTA means more bureaucracy and higher costs for businesses and citizens, and is less dynamic than compared to what we had with the UK through the EEA agreement. The deal does not solve all the trade barriers, and some remain completely unsolved. We must therefore not forget that this is the result of the UK choosing to leave the internal market and the commons rules. To that, Goodall added his own conclusion. Her words are partly about Solberg wanting to protect Norway's position in the EEA, something to which her party is committed to and for which there are critics in Norway politics, but as a stark different tone to that struck by the British ministers. It's almost as if the sunny uplands of Brexit never existed, and we'll just leave that one there. And of course, as is always, surprise, surprise, this deal is simply just not good enough to replace the deal what we had when we were in the single market and the customs union. You heard it there, right from the Norwegian's Prime Minister's own mouth. You know, it ain't going to be better than being a member of the EU or being in the single market or customs union. And like we said just very recently, Brexiteers are only free traders when it suits them. And it appears that we are trying to do all these trade deals because the Brexiteers know deep down that there is really no escaping the gravity of the EU, that sooner or later we are bound to be pulled back in. And the desperation and the speed at which they are doing these trade deals, to me at least, seems to be that if a future parliament should seek closer cooperation with the EU, like anyone with the at least amount of sense would do, then this makes it harder for us to proceed with those agreements. And we have now proceeded forward with a very interesting position that future parliaments will have to go, yeah, that trade deal with Australia is bad. We may have to scrap it. And then we have to go through the whole rigmarole of having to scrap it while still trying to achieve what we should have done, rightly so, long ago, was achieve closer, more practical bonds with our European neighbours, because they will always be our closest trading partners. Doesn't matter that we go off in the world and do all these fantastic trade deals. That does not change a damn thing. So, as always, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and my one-off donation link at Buy Me a Coffee. Or you can also now join the Pony Club, courtesy of YouTube. You'll see the join button down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.